Most folks fear overnight brisket because they fear something's going to go wrong. But tonight, I slept like a baby. And when you see that final brisket on that board, you'll know exactly why I chose the method that I did, because it works every single time. I've had some real overnight disasters. Temp drops, the stall hits hard, and you're out there at 4 a.m. questioning all of your life's choices. But that's why I built this method, exactly for you and me, working guys, so we can get a brisket during the middle of the week and enjoy ourselves. This is going to be a simple Texas-style brisket. Let's make it happen. I'm Silly Bubba, and welcome to my kitchen. I want to show you a simple brisket recipe that you can do overnight and have dinner the next day. But first, we've got some trimming to do. So this decal fat, which is this huge band of fat, that's not going to melt down in my cooker. So we got to get rid of that. That's got to come out. So I'm going to focus on that, but I'm not really going too crazy with the trim. I'm just getting some of the big, hard pieces of fat out that I know will not cook down. Because again, I want this brisket to be aerodynamic. I'm not going to put too much work in it. Just taking off the silver skin, making this thing look really pretty. And I've got videos as well on my channel of a well-trimmed brisket. And if you're interested, I'll leave that here on the screen. Now it's time for the seasoning. And for this, I'm only going to use 2 ingredients. The first one being 16 mesh pepper, and then Rio brand seasonal, which is basically a seasoning salt. And I'm using that because it has garlic in it. So the first layer that goes on this brisket is the 16 mesh pepper. I always put pepper down first. And you know my habit when seasoning, I always season about a foot over the meat. And that way you get even coverage. Now, we aren't rookies here either, so make sure you get the sides of the brisket, because we're eating all parts of this brisket, right? So don't ignore anything. Second step, I'm using the seasoned salt. That will go over the top of the 16 mesh pepper. I want a good even coverage. With the smoke, salt, and pepper, this is going to be a great cook, and it'll be Texas style all the way. I now flip the brisket over, fat side up, and apply the seasoning in the exact same order. 16 mesh pepper first, and then the seasonal. Now I do make my own brisket rub, but I tell you what, there's nothing like a great Texas-style brisket with just salt and pepper on it. I like to use seasoning salt for a little more flavor, but really you don't need a whole lot more than that. The beef stands on its own and will be delicious. Now I'm ready to put this in the refrigerator. But now let me show you the tool that's going to make this overnight cook stress-free. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Typhur Sync Gold. Sub-1G WiFi Bluetooth. That means it's the most stable connection I've ever used on a brisket cook. Now, if you know me, you know I'm all about using your hands and eyes to tell you how your barbecue is coming along. But when it comes down to it, convenience is important, especially when you're trying to get your sleep in around a busy work schedule, wife and kids, and you want a brisket in the middle of the week. You can't go wrong with this device, let me tell you. And I put it to the test to make sure. Now let's look at some of the features. Well, there's no mistaking that this device is on. I love the sleek, shiny look. And these probes are heavy duty. In fact, each probe has 6 sensors, so you get super accurate internal and ambient temperature tracking. I absolutely love how intuitive this device is. I can easily set a desired internal temperature for my meat, or even use some of the presets that are already programmed into the Typhur. I really appreciate that they give me the choice. This device is so sharp. It even has a kickstand so it can stand up proudly and do its job. Now, I know it may not seem like much, but if you're offering convenience to your customers, every little thing matters. And if you're like me, you're tired of buying batteries to power your devices. I mean, we are in the 21st century, right? Well, Typhur thought of that too. If the internal battery starts to wane, just plug it into your USB-C cord, which you likely already have for your phone. Yeah, they made it convenient. I love this device. And one more cool feature about these probes, you see that black line? It shows exactly how far to place the probe in the meat. It's foolproof. And durability, they're rated up to 932 degrees and they're fully waterproof. If you've ever used cheap probes like I have that die on your first cook, not this baby. This thing's built like a tank. But now I want to test its signal strength. Typhur says the probes can be quite a distance away and the base won't lose connection. Well, I'm going to up the ante a bit and even add this aluminum foil barrier. Back in a minute.
All right, so check this out.
I'm sitting in my car. I'm easily 200 feet away from the base of this device in my kitchen. I mean, we're talking walls, appliances, a whole house, and this thing has not dropped its signal at all. It is powerful. No lag, no drops, no drama. This is what you need if you're doing an overnight cook. You could be in your bedroom, fast asleep, and this thing will monitor everything you need. Even when you get up to use the bathroom and pee, you can look over and make sure that everything is right on target. And if you're the kind of person that loves apps, the Typhur app gives you every option under the sun. It offers unlimited range, and ProView shows every sensor in real time. It will alert you when you reach desired internal temps or pit temps, and even if the temp falls too low. If you want to run your next overnight brisket cook stress-free and actually get more sleep than normal, grab the Typhur Sync Gold. Typhur is giving all my viewers a 10% discount, so hit the link and use the code in the description. Now let's get back to this brisket cook. My plan is to put this brisket on about 9:30 tonight, so it's resting right now in the refrigerator. All those seasonings are going to work. But I didn't forget all those fat trimmings either. I'm going to render that down into tallow and use that inside of my wrap. One of the most important things to prepare for an overnight cook is to make sure your pit is ready, so I'm cleaning all of the grates. I'm also taking the deflector plate out, and I'm putting aluminum foil over the top of the deflector plate. And this is to keep my pit clean. So pull 2 sheets of aluminum foil out, put it on your deflector plate, then you can put your grates in. And what this does is every time you cook, and of course you're going to get drippings from the meat that come down on the deflector plate, but you can easily remove that aluminum foil, replace it, put your grates back in, and then you're back in business. Easy peasy. My pit is clean, and I'm ready for tonight's cook. So it's about 9:30 p.m., time to get the brisket on. I'm looking forward to this cook. It's going to be a low and slow, easy cook overnight. I'm going to set the temperature at 200 degrees so that I get a good amount of bark by tomorrow morning, and all should be right. I'm also placing this on the top rack in my cooker because a deflector plate can dry it out over time, so I'm starting out up high so that the heat acts like convection. This is the easiest way to do a brisket. My Typhur's all set up. It's cold internal temperature right now, but not for long. I put my fat renderings in there. Hopefully I'll have some tallow in the morning, and I can use that on the wrap when it's time to foil boat my brisket. Now it's time for bed. I'm going to get some sleep in, guys. And as you can see, it looks like my wife took my camera and had some fun with it. But it's okay. I also set my screen record up so I could capture the temperatures overnight. I set up my notifications so that if anything got too high or too low, Typhur would let me know and I could make the adjustments. But everything stayed right on. At about 7 a.m., I checked the brisket, and it's looking great. It's starting to get a little bit of yellow fat on top, which means the fat is rendering, and even the trimmings are starting to melt a bit. The bark is looking really good, so I decided at this point to up it to 250 degrees. About an hour and a half later, I checked, and it's coming along nicely. You can see it's a little bit darker than it was before, so I decided to pump it up to about 275 degrees. Here's one thing that's so cool about this Typhur app. It's now showing me how much time I have left in this cook. It's gauging it by the internal temperature and the pit temp. That is just such an awesome feature. Now I'm preparing to put this brisket inside of a foil boat. So I'm laying out 2 sheets of foil, and I'm going to wrap this up in such a way that the top remains open so it can continue to cook. I'm putting some of the beef tallow now down into the bottom of this to keep it moist. Especially the flat is what I'm most concerned about. And then I put my brisket on top. Now again, I don't always go by temperature, but I went by if the bark was set, it doesn't rub off. And that usually happens around 170, but make sure your bark is set. And then you can do what I'm doing here by making a foil boat. You're basically swaddling this brisket. It's like a confit method, if you will. So my brisket's ready to get to the pit, but there's one last step that I like to do before taking it out. I'll pour some of that tallow right over the top, and that'll keep that bark nice and moist, but still allow it to get good smoke without the threat of drying out over time. This brisket looks fantastic. Looks like it's already done, doesn't it? Not quite. Time to get this brisket back on the pit, and that's what I'm about to do. This is the last step of the cook. I'm going to up the temperature to about 300 degrees to render this fat a little bit better. I want a sugar cookie type texture. And I'm going to put my probe in just to make sure everything is right on target. Looking forward to the end of this cook. It's been a long one. but so enjoyable. And here I am. The brisket is done. I went by feel. It feels like butter. And if you're looking for temperatures, it was between 190 to 198 degrees. But again, go by feel. My wife's getting hungry, and I am too. But I had to rest the brisket down to about 140 degrees so that all of those juices redistributed. Now it's time to slice into this. It's sliced like butter. It was so moist, so tender. And I don't normally like squeezing my briskets, but I had to do it for you guys. It cut like butter. And look at that smoke ring. Can't get smoke on a pellet grill, huh? I beg to differ. This thing's clapping, and I am too. This was so tender, so delicious. Who says you can't cook brisket midweek on a full-time schedule? This method allows you to enjoy good eats anytime. Follow and subscribe for more barbecue tips that actually work.